Hi, my name is Anders. I'm a teacher at XIS. Uh, my wife and I have been in Xiamen for almost 3 years now. And one of the things that I notice that can be most stressful for new teachers is the apartment hunting process. Mostly because from when the moment you put your feet on the ground in Xiamen until you sign a contract, you are effectively 24/7 looking for a house. And it's a very challenging time, especially being new to a country. So one way that I could maybe contribute to making your lives a little bit better is by showing you some online resources that will help you maybe understand the lay of the land and the market before you come. And even just the first day in Xiamen might be helpful. So as an overview, the three things that I thought would be important to cover are, number one, like the geography of Xiamen, the neighborhoods, the districts, and etc. Two, how to use Chinese websites, even if you're illiterate in Chinese. And three, specifically this one website, which is 58.com, uba.com, and it's a Chinese Craigslist. So regarding Xiamen, I was hoping that I could explain the districts, the popular neighborhoods for XIS International teachers, and the teacher bus route, so you can kind of plan to think potential regions where you could live. So I believe, I'm not 100% on this, but I believe that there are 6 districts in Xiamen. Here, Xiamen Island is where most of the teachers live, and on Xiamen Island there are 2 districts. There's Simin District and Huli District. Off the island to the west is Haicheng. To the east is Chang'an. To the north is Jimei, and even further to the north between Jimei and Chang'an is Tong'an. Also for reference, here's Gulangyu. But if you notice, within this white circle is where about 90% of the teachers will live. Some teachers live down by the beach, some teachers live by the Jimei University, and some teachers live within walking distance of school. But again, 90% are within this white circle. If we zoom into this white circle, you can see that there are really 3 main neighborhoods where you can find XIS teachers living, and most likely where you will be apartment hunting as soon as you come to Xiamen. The first neighborhood is starting here in Marco Polo. I think it's actually called Binbei, but XIS teachers will all refer to this neighborhood as Marco Polo. This is probably where the majority of XIS teachers live. Next on south is Sibe, which is short for Sibe Luko, which is a very big bus stop where you can kind of get anywhere in the island from this bus stop or a rapid transit line. And last is Shada, which is the neighborhood that surrounds Xiamen University. The bus route starts in Shada every morning and will follow up through Sibe and then go to Marco Polo. There are 2 stops in the Marco Polo neighborhood, and then on north off the island to land in Xinling, where XIS is. So the last thing I was hoping to cover in this podcast was 2 things that I put together that help you maybe understand more the layout of Xiamen and some areas that you might be interested in looking in. So the first thing is an interactive map. I made like a Google map that has the teacher bus route, the stops on the teacher bus route, and maybe some public bus stops that will be helpful later when you're looking for apartments. So we can check that out here. So this is the interactive map. You can see here's the blue line is the teacher bus route. You can see where different teachers live. There are some teachers who live just close here to school. There's some teachers that live close to Jimei University. And you can see lots of information about where exactly the teacher bus route goes. The second resource is this housing spreadsheet. And you will be able to see in this housing spreadsheet 2 things. Number one, you can see these are neighborhoods and by what district and specific areas where you might want to look into. Number 2, here's popular apartment complexes the teachers already live in with Chinese, Pinyin, and like the rough Google Translate translation, which will be helpful for us later. So those are some resources that you can use, and I think you can also find these in the wiki. In the next section, I want to kind of run down really quick how to use Chinese websites without knowing Chinese. So thank you. Okay, so in the second part I was hoping that I could show you really quickly how to use Chinese websites without necessarily needing to speak Chinese. So if you can use the different translation tools that I show you successfully, I think it'll help you get a lot more out of the apartment search process and potentially out of other things as you adjust to your new life here in Xiamen, because there are quite a few great things that happen in China on the internet that are hard to have access to without some translation or intense Mandarin study. So I was hoping the three parts of this are just kind of general quick rundown of the tools that I use for success in navigating Chinese websites. The second thing is kind of manipulating bad translations with Google Translate. And then maybe I'd show you an example and some times when like specific things happen that you have to avoid. So yeah. So first and foremost, you need to be more or less familiar with Chinese, aka Mandarin, aka Zhongwen, aka Putonghua, and Pinyin, which is like the romanticization of characters. It's effectively the English translation, though many Chinese teachers will say that it's a different language than English. The second thing that you need to be really familiar with that I recommend that you use is that you use Google Chrome and its auto-translation feature. Google Chrome, however, I think requires a VPN for use in China, though I will admit to very rarely not using my VPN. If you do get a VPN, I recommend Pleco, but maybe that's a question for another time. Second on the list is translate.google.com or translate.baidu.com, and I'll show that to you in a second. Next on the list is maps.baidu.com or maps.google.com. Effectively, Baidu is Chinese Google, and they have a lot of useful information that you can get at even if you don't speak Chinese. I highly recommend their app. Lastly is Pleco, which is the only Chinese language learning app that I can recommend and that I use on a daily basis, and it's really worth it. It's free, and they have a learning pack that you should get if you are interested. So next, this is the auto translate. This is what it looks like on a Mac. Normally it'll just happen automatically depending on what your setting is, but if it doesn't happen automatically, you can right click anywhere on the page and click translate to English. Here's what it looks like on a Windows. In the bar of Chrome in the top right, there's this little translate icon, and you can click to go back and forth between them, but traditionally you just want it to kind of auto translate for you. Improving machine translations. If you have to translate from English into Chinese, you want to simplify things as much as possible. So instead of saying, like, to your housekeeper, for instance, like, I would like for you to come between the hours of so-and-so, like, this, the more simple you can make it, the better, such as, like, I want you come tomorrow. And then that tends to translate more easily into Chinese. And if I show you an example with XIS's address really quickly, maybe we can get something useful out of here. So I'm in Google Translate. I can paste this in. You can see it actively highlight and translate. So I see that this corresponds to China. So I can kind of space things out and rearrange them as I see fit to find out what individual characters mean. So I can kind of parse that out and get more information from the Chinese even if I don't speak it. The next thing is I'll show you an example with Baidu Maps. And this is kind of a pitfall that you can have to look out for. So Baidu Maps will do pretty good text prediction. If I start typing in the pinyin of some characters, it'll get it. But what the problem is that Google Translate, the Chrome Translate's going to kick in before I get a chance to do it. So I wanted to type Xiamen in, but I can't now. But now it's translated, and here's Fujian Province. I know that Xiamen is in Fujian Province. And after it's translated, I click on Fujian Province, but now this button doesn't work. So kind of in some ways, you need to use the Chinese version to start to get Xiamen to show up. And if you can recognize that those are the characters, then you're in Xiamen. And then from there on out, you can kind of search for anything that you need inside of there. So for example, I'll search for my apartment building, Hongshan Xinchuan. And see, this is where things get difficult in that. And if I can find it and click on it soon enough. So eventually I can finally navigate to exactly what I'm looking for. And this is kind of valuable in that I can see exactly where my apartment is. I can zoom, find things all around it. It pretty much works as any website, as Google Maps you would expect it to work. And what this has over Google Maps is that you have a street view. So if I'm interested to know exactly what my building looks like, I can click on Street View and see some helpful information. So this might be helpful for you. So yeah, we can get into that later. Another example I know that bugs me all the time is Taobao. Say for instance I want to buy, Bruce Willis carved head for 170 RMB. I guess the translation is old boob Ruth Willis. But for example, this is already translated, and of course I want to add it to my cart because who wouldn't want to buy this? But I have a problem in that this button isn't working. And the reason is, again, because of this translation. So in this case, my bar has already disappeared. So if I right-click and I go, or if I can't translate back, but if I refresh, then I should be able to get back to the original Mandarin version. And then as soon as I have that button that I want to click, then I'm going to click that right away. And it should work. I think it's loading. Okay, now it says I've added to the cart. So I've got it now. So that's just another example of how to use that. It can be kind of tricky with the translate, but eventually you can work if you're persistent enough about it. So that brings me to the end of general translation use with Google Chrome. Okay, so in the last part of this video, I'm hoping that I can help you use different online apartment listing services combined with Baidu Maps to help you find a new home. So part one will obviously be using xm.58.com, which is Chinese Craigslist. Part two is digging deeper with Baidu Maps. Part C is just other resources that I know, other apartment listing sites. So first and foremost, xm.58.com, uba.com is essentially Craigslist for China. XM is the abbreviation for Xiamen, so it's just the city's listings. What's great about this is that you can search by neighborhood and complex, and I'm going to show you a list of neighborhoods that many excise teachers will live in, and apartment complexes that excise teachers will live in, and how to look for each of them on this website. The second thing on there that I think is great is that they give you what floor it's on, the size of the apartment, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and oftentimes there will be pictures that let you see exactly what the layout of the apartment is. Keep in mind, though, that Chinese renters and rentees do not deem it necessary to try and make the apartment look as nice as possible. So in some instances, I imagine you're going to have to use a little bit of imagination to imagine what it will be like when you live there. The caveat also being that sometimes the prices can be listed a little lower than what they in actuality will turn out to be, and sometimes they are out of date in that an apartment that was listed is then a tenant is found and then the listing isn't taken down right away by the landlord. So let's check it out really quickly. One thing that you should probably have open as a reference is on this tutorials for online hunting page. Down at the bottom I have this spreadsheet of the neighborhood and apartment complexes that are close to the bus route. So down here you can choose neighborhood list, apartment complexes, and this is that neighborhood comparison chart we've already seen. So say for instance I'm really interested in looking for an apartment at Boguan, which is the overseas museum, and this is in Shada. Here is the Chinese, here is the pinyin, here is the rough translation. So when we initially look at the website, we'll have to click on the district that we're interested in, which is Ximen. So we load. This is Ximen right here. These are all the districts. It'll translate if we wait a moment. But because I know it already will, there it is. I'm going to click on Ximen. Now that what will come up is a bunch of neighborhoods that are listed by pinyin. So if we go back, I know I want to find museum, but pinyin, and pinyin, it's B. So under B, I'm expecting that one of these will turn in once the translate kicks in. If it doesn't kick in right away, you can right-click and hit translate. So at the end of this, here is museum listed under the B's. So I click on that because that's the area I'm interested in. I can add more restrictions, maybe a price range for rent, um, the number of bedrooms, and this is just, the last option is to say that you are interested in the entire apartment, not just a bedroom or just a single bed. So maybe we're looking for a 2-bedroom apartment in that price range. I believe anything under here, this is a false advertisement, but all of these look to be legitimate apartment listings. So we can look at some of these. This is a gated community senior home. But as you can see, when I open it up, you can see right away, here's the square meters. It's on the 19th floor out of 36. I think it says 2 rooms, 1 toilet. And as you scroll down, you can kind of see pictures of the different rooms of the apartment. Some of the apartments will have furniture, others will not. So that's just nice, kind of nice to be able to see. So you're able to browse by that information. Kind of see what's going on in different apartments. Here you can see the broker that's selling the apartment. Sometimes the broker will be the landlord or owner themselves. Sometimes they'll enlist a realtor to help rent the apartment. Regardless, you can find the phone number here and you can see more information. Sometimes it'll just be a picture of the landlord themselves. If you're interested in searching by actual apartment complexes, say for instance you're interested in my apartment complex, which is Hongshan Xinchuan, the same thing can be done here. Maybe if you start from just Sining district, because I know that's the district, and I just copy and paste those Mandarin characters into the search box. And again, this is me searching by only this specific complex. So yeah, in the next part I'll show you how to use Baidu Maps to find out more information. So where we last left off, we had just used xm.58 to kind of search for apartments in different areas. Because I was able to search specifically for my apartment complex, Hongshan Village or David Hill Village, depending on the translation, I'm able to find different information. Say for instance, I see this apartment, this random apartment, I click, the rent looks nice, the floors looks nice, everything looks okay for me. So as I'm scrolling through, there's something about this place that I really like. Maybe it's the super soaker in the bathroom, but I want to find out more about this apartment complex. I can do this by going to maps.baidu.com. I can copy in the Mandarin, and the first thing you'll have to do is get back to Xiamen. So I would type Xiamen and search for Xiamen, and once I've searched for Xiamen, anything inside of Xiamen should get me, any search from here should get me exactly where I want to go. So here I am at my apartment complex. I can switch, of course, to satellite view as you can in any other thing, but what I find most useful is this. And this is the street view. And it'll take a while to load if you're outside of China or inside of China with a VPN running. But for me, this is just nice because you get eyes on the ground to see what's going on. So this is where the school bus picks me up every morning. Yeah, so you can kind of see what's going on, and we have a nice little railway park. Not that I'm trying to advertise my neighborhood or anything. So that's just kind of a valuable service that you can kind of scope out and see what's in the area without necessarily having to go there. Also of note is finding directions in Baidu Maps. The way that I do it while being illiterate is to look for these little bus icons. So for instance, if I'm in a certain area, if I can find the bus icon, maybe it's better if I go just right. What's nice is if I can copy and paste, say for instance I know somebody who lives in another place, or if I have things written down already. Like I know many teachers, I often go to Wanjing Dasha to meet other teachers, so Baidu Maps will help me give me the bus numbers and bus routes that I need to know. And this works a lot, I think, more intuitively on the app itself. But here you can see the buses, how to get from here and how far it is. So that's Baidu Maps. The last bit of information, I guess, really to share is that Again, here's the link for you to use. Here are 3 other apartment listing websites. I don't know so much information about them necessarily, but I've heard that they're also used, and just depending on the city is which one's more popular. But I think this one to have the most amount of listings. That pretty much sums up everything I wanted to cover. Beyond that, I guess it's just worth mentioning that there may be some mistakes in the information. I can't vouch that everything is right, but I did my best to try and make things. And if you notice for some reason there's a mistake or there's something missing, just don't hesitate to ask, and I can try and help you out and make that happen. So thanks for listening, and hopefully this helps you guys learn more about what kind of apartment you'd like or where you'd like to live and make your transition to Xiamen easier. So until we actually meet face to face, take care and good luck. And again, don't hesitate to ask any of us questions if you have them. And I look forward to seeing you in the summer. Take care.